Tom Brady, I don't need $20 million, but could you loan me Tom Brady was paid $20 million to be roasted, and I'm like, I could probably suck it up a little bit more if I got just $1 million, just a little bit.
So you don't know what's being said. All fairness, you have no clue. I know I'm going to be one of the guys roasting you, and I'm not giving you my notes. No way.
I don't think you want to know.
Closer. This is your time. Hit record on your crooked life. What's your story? Hey, say the words out loud. Mike and Scott gonna crack that crowd. What's your story? Your story, Mike and Scott. Let's talk.
Oh man, Scott Lees. I'm excited. Another episode. What's your story? We're laughing because he's got this hat on. We'll get into that a little bit. He's legit Bill's Mafia, so he's got the story there. I'm pumped about today because we have someone that's been here before and knows the What's Your Story podcast landscape and the studio. Nick Lowery, Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame, influencer, professional speaker, author, by the way. And that's what we already came to talk about today. It was this book. So my man, Nick Lowery, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm not an influencer because of my cleavage, okay? I just want to make that really clear. No cleavage.
So what's happened since we spoke, man? Give us an update on all the stuff you've been working on.
The hardest thing I've ever done is to stay with a book. I was almost semi-honest that it should have been called The Art of Procrastination because it's hard to pull stuff out of yourself, but it's also the best thing because it forces you to think, what do I really believe in? And then what are the examples? What are the provoking incidents in my life that helped teach me that? The biggest one is what it says right here, getting cut and rejected 11 times by 8 teams and teaching how you can get used to almost anything. My father was a reconnaissance pilot. I had this dream that if I didn't make it in the NFL, I would have been flying an A-10 Warthog, which is the only plane somebody 6'4" could fit in. A Dallas Cowboys player, I can't think of his name right now, did that in Desert Storm.
Wow.
And they wiped out the tanks of the Iraqi army very quickly. And I dreamed that that would be what I do if I didn't make it. But it was teaching me how to create my own office. And so I think that's so important because psychologically, if we haven't made ourselves impregnable to doubt, to criticism, to unbelievably unfair criticism, to distraction, then we're never going to get consistent results. And obviously, you can make 2 million field goals in a row on the sidelines or in practice, but then that little voice is going, you may have made 2 million in a row, Nick, but you missed this one. Nobody will care. Yeah. So that's also a wonderful insight into society today, because anybody that's trying to do anything on each side of the political aisle or just trying to do good things are subject to amazingly unfair criticism. Mm-hmm. But that's part of what you sign up for. You sign up for criticism knowing that God's put you here for a reason, and you have, to me, the authentic connection with your gifts. And the harder you keep fighting and the more you fight and climb up that, what I call a tree of legacy, each time you get back up, you're at a little bit higher branch. You see a little bit more. You attract the right people in your life, and it becomes self-fulfilling. You start noticing better people in my life, like Mike Lindstrom.
Yeah.
This guy, I will say, consistency is a big word, and I really use that a lot now. People that show up and are consistent. Yeah. Mike's not a different person one day and a different person the next day, and you look for that. Yeah. So
appreciate that.
The book's about persistence. It's also about legacy. It's also about purpose. And it's also about leadership. I mean, leadership today, we have the worst leadership in general in the political system. And I'm not talking about our president. I'm just talking about leadership that really wants to get things done. And we have to raise the bar to make change that we need that brings people together. So the last C word, there's consistency, is connection. I think we talked about this in our last one too, because if you've made it to the top of that legacy tree and you're like, wow, isn't this great? If you have no connection with your family and your friends, it's amazingly empty. It's achingly empty. So that is something we've got to do, is do that homework. Who am I going to share my success with? And that's where the juice is.
Yeah, that's great. I got to ask you, because I've not asked you this yet. This cover, I love it.
Yeah.
And people have been asking me, what game was that? What kick was that? Where's this come from? You can tell us the story behind this.
Well, that's my
Great
buddy,
picture.
Brian Barker, and we're playing the Raiders, and it's like 26, 25 degrees, but it's icy rain. And Bill Walsh, the Hall of Fame coach, was doing the announcing with Dick Enberg, who was also a wonderful Hall of Fame caliber announcer. And somebody sent me the video of the game afterwards, because the game ended up being 9-7. But the key field goal, in many ways, was the first one. It was a 48-yard field goal into the wind, and it was a lot of wind, and it was raining. And so that's why I wore that thing, because I like to not be
The big
cold.
rain jacket he's got on
I
now.
like to not be cold. And after the game, I made this 48-yarder into this big wind, unpredictable wind, like the golfers have to deal with.
Yeah.
That separates the men from the boys. And Bill Walsh said that was the greatest field goal I may have ever seen.
Wow.
And then we ended up being great on defense. We shut down these guys. They only scored 7 points. And with about 4 minutes left, I had a 40-yard field goal to put us ahead. But I have a story. Can I tell a story about that game?
Yeah.
So this is how intensely, if you do the mental work, the great players, Marcus Allen, Joe Montana, who I got to play with, and Duron Cherry, magic happens. So Duron Cherry had been missing, injured for several weeks. And he had a dream the night before this game, and he told Kevin Porter, our safety, number 27, that he dreamed that in his first play-in, he was going to hit a guy named Bo Jackson, who is one of the great athletes of all time, and wished he hadn't got injured, because he was really just
special.
unbelievably amazing. And, of course, played for the Royals, who we're going to see. And so Duron goes in after that field goal, and I kick off. And on the first play, he just leverages. I watched this a couple times. His helmet right into the chest of Bo Jackson, and the ball pops straight up in the air, and we get the ball. It's just amazing. So as he's running off the field, Kevin Porter looks at him like he saw a ghost, like, oh my God, what did
Like
you
the
do?
dream just
But
happened.
exactly what he saw in his dream
Wow.
happened the next day. And I think that versions of that can happen for all of us when we really believe in what we're doing, when we've aligned our values, our purposes, and we've shut out with that personal spiritual office, if you will. Magic happens. Supernatural things happen.
So you didn't get credit for the win? You didn't get credit for it?
You get a
Well,
game ball that
you know,
day?
they-
You got a
they
game
usually-
ball at
Come
least
on.
that day.
I got a game ball.
Okay.
It looks good. But they only count if it's in the last 2 minutes. And so there are a lot of games like that. You know, I probably was about 40 games where I kicked the decisive points, like when we beat the Denver Broncos on Monday night, Joe Montana's first game on national TV on Monday night. And Huey Lewis is standing next to my net, and I kicked 5 field goals. We're up 15-0 till 30 seconds left, and they finally scored a touchdown. But we beat them 15-7. So is that a game-winning field goal? I don't know. I'm just proud that I could always be dependable. So in the end, that's the value, is when you hear leaders, one thing they'll always say is show up. Leaders and achievers show up, and then
Heard that earlier.
Yeah.
and come through for your team.
Yeah.
So that's the greatest gift of all, is feeling like my teammates could depend on me.
Yeah. You know what blows my mind? When I've been around him enough, even outside of the podcast where we've hung out or had lunch, or I had lunch at his house a couple weeks ago. How these guys, these athletes, golfers too, they can recall shit.
Oh, the recall is
He was
incredible.
like, oh, yeah, wait, there was 2 minutes left in the game. The score was 15-5. Oh, by the way, that guy was number 27. How do you do that? Is it just because you were in the moment and you just, it's just all relived all over again?
You
The
know,
fact
we
that
are
you can-
learning with AI, accelerating how much we learn science, and that memory, when it is an intense event, lots of emotion and importance, and maybe fear,
Yeah.
maybe doubt, all of those emotions mixed in, and then the importance of the game. You bet damn right you're going to remember those details. Can I tell you another one?
Yeah.
So Tim Barnett, who was a wide receiver for us, number 84, he
Even remembering jersey numbers isn't.
he was
that blows my mind,
his
yeah.
locker
We're
was
talking about
next to mine.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
40 years
And
ago.
we're driving. We were down 24-10. Keith Cash blocked a punt by Mark Royals, which Bill Cowher, our former defensive coordinator, the head coach and future Hall of Fame coach for Pittsburgh, we're not happy about. Now we're back in the game, but it's still 24-17. And Joe leads us right down. And on 4th down, like the catch with Dwight Clark, he runs out to his right and he finds Tim Barnett on 4th down. If he drops it, game's over. We're done. And he catches it on his knees in the middle of the end zone. Boom, kick the extra point. We go to overtime. Somebody, kicked the game-winning field goal. Thank God, because they got me in position. A guy named Marcus Allen and J.J. Burden and Keith Cash and, Joe Montana. But after the game, I said to Tim Barnett, who was on the flaky side, but a really nice guy, I said, Tim, that was awesome, man. 4th down, that's a lot of pressure. And he looked at me. He goes, that was 4th down? So I have a feeling it's good that he did not know it was 4th down.
That's funny.
How do you not know that? You're in the middle of the game or the court. I mean, give me a break. Everyone in the stadium, 80,000 people know that, right?
Yep.
That's crazy. So tell us a little bit about, you got something coming up. We got to plug this,
Yes.
man. This is this coming weekend.
Yes.
Tell us
Big
about
weekend.
this.
So it's the book launch for this book at the Grand Falloon, which is on the Plaza, one of the most famous sports bars in Kansas City. My jersey's on the wall, along with, of course, Travis Kelce and Derek Thomas and Neil Smith and a guy named Patrick Mahomes. And I'm honored to be on that wall, too. And that's Saturday. And then we're going to go to the Royals game, courtesy of J.J. Piccolo. We love you, J.J.
I love it.
And then the next day, Christian Okoye, one of the great running backs in NFL history, has a foundation for youth. And it helps local youth that are poor and also Nigerian youth. And he's doing a roast of yours truly, which he does every year. And I happen to be the target.
This is the first
year.
time you've been the target, though.
This is the first time.
Okay.
And I'm like, Tom Brady, I don't need $20 million, but could you loan me Tom Brady was paid $20 million to be roasted. And I'm like, I could probably suck it up a little bit more if I got just $1 million. Just a little bit.
So you don't know what's being said. All fairness, you have no clue. I know I'm going to be one of the guys roasting you, and I'm not giving you my notes. No way.
I don't think you want to know.
No, you got to.
I'm going to feel like Saint Sebastian. Had about 300 arrows in it afterwards. But Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver will be there, and he has got a lot of Richard Pryor in him. He's really funny.
Yeah.
He's a reverend, and he's a legend because he was like 12 years mayor in Kansas City. They named a boulevard after him, and he's become a really good friend. And again, Democrat, I don't care what your party is. Do I love you as a person? Do you have some ethical standards that you live by? And he said, I take him to a couple Chiefs games. They've been in our El Bandito Yankee Tequila Suite, 132B at the stadium, by the way. And he, right off the bat, said, I'd love to do that. So I know he's going to be there.
Wow.
And I'm just going to have to say some prayers beforehand.
You nervous?
It's okay to say yes.
I am not nervous now, but I will be nervous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know, because I don't know this yet either, are you going to be up on the stage next to people that are roasting you, or do they get...
I think I'm in a chair to the side on the stage, yeah.
So the spotlight's on you, man.
Over here.
I was a single guy, for a long time. I still am. And I'm not dumb. I'm sure there'll be a few comments about that. But you know what? As an athlete doing well, I was blessed and had a chance to meet people.
Meet people.
Yeah.
I'm not
Chance to bless
you're
others,
getting nothing out of me on that one, brother. Nothing out of me on that
You're
one.
not going to go there. You're not going to go there.
I promised you I would keep it classy, though. I did promise you that. I'm not going to go super R-rated, but I'm going to keep it classy. But I'm excited. And by the way,
I'm sure there'll be a few that will do the
I'm
R-rated.
sure. But it's an honor to do it. When you asked me to do it, I thought, man, just to be able to come in and be around your friendship group, your families, your family, Chiefs Nation, man. We're talking about the kingdom, baby.
And these are moments, too, right? I mean, I think in the end, it's just so clear to me when I go to the event we had at the Scottsdale Resort and Spa.
Yeah.
There are a lot of places there that, like the social boardroom and the speakeasy, that are places for moments. If you being roasted by your fellow Chiefs Hall of Famers isn't a moment, and you got to feel grateful for that,
Yeah. No, it's good. So tell us some
I'll
of the
feel grateful as I go to the therapist and, work on myself as fast.
Tell us some of the media you've done, and you have more media coming up. Tell us what you've been doing, so we can see it on social media. You have
an interview with my friend Mick Schaefer, who's been the anchor there for NBC, and I'm doing one with John Holt, who's been an anchor for Fox there. I did one yesterday on Fox Live Now with Andy Mack, because I want this to be a book not just about Kansas City, but about how we all find meaning and purpose in our lives and how we learn to focus on the stuff that matters and bring us together. You know, that connection thing. We need people to just say, that's really important right now. You know, so much divisiveness. So I'm really excited. And who else? I've got Len Jennings, who's the anchor for ABC 9. So that's going to be on tomorrow, I think. Might be today. And no, it's tonight.
What have you learned about the promotional process of releasing a book that you didn't know before? Or what are you liking about it, or what's tough about it?
First of all, I'm really grateful that all the people here, Scott Passmore and Richard Sines, and the different people here wanted to cover it. Cameron from Channel 12, Cameron Cox, all those people. It means a lot to me. And what you learn is, I kind of feel like General Rommel. You want your Panzer tanks, and you want Blitzkrieg. You want to really make sure one interview is not enough, 2 interviews. You want people to know about it. You want to portray different parts of the book. If people don't know what's in it for them, if they don't understand what they're going to get out of it, why are they going to buy the book? And to me, the most important symbol, by the way, and message is, it's not your normal sports book. I mean, I talk about Arnold Toynbee, who was probably the greatest historian of the 20th century, was the mentor to my father as a Fulbright scholar in the very first group of Fulbright scholars, and then Justice Byron White next door, and all these incredible role models. I mean, who can say that coming back from Germany after 4 years in Europe to England, we stayed in Arnold Toynbee's flat, the greatest historian of the 20th century, the night of the moon landing.
Wow. Yeah.
Greatest historian, arguably one of the single greatest moments. And so growing up with Kennedys at our school, Michael and David at Potomac, and George W. Bush and his son Neil and Marvin at St. Albans, and you're raised to say, you know, let me paraphrase it from today's nomenclature, which is people are privileged, people are entitled. Well, if you are, which I was, not with money, but with an opportunity to meet great people, do something with it. Do something with it. And so I really feel I've been lucky enough to get to know RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz, and what RFK Jr. went through, losing both his uncle and his father subsequently, and yet to have this flame of desire to serve this country and bring out the best and do the hard work. Because, you know, entrenched power is the hardest thing. In fact, it's dangerous,
yes, it is,
as we've seen. And so I just feel that I'm really lucky to have worked for 4 presidents, for W. Bush as chairman of the National Fund for American Indian Education, for Clinton helping launch AmeriCorps. There was always about thinking through how do you raise the blood flow and the musculature, the structure of volunteering and service. So it's not just soldiers that can serve their country, but people that for 2 years they can develop relationships with gangbangers and with drug lords and convince them that maybe they can do more to help their community. I mean, that's serious stuff.
Yeah.
And then the Points of Life Foundation for H.W. Bush, who was incredibly accessible. I mean, how many people can say they worked in the White House 3 off seasons? And then W. Bush nominated me for this American Indian Education Foundation, which was subsequent to another program called Native Vision, which is now in its 30th year. It's a mentoring program for Native youth. We started in Arizona and Chinle on the Navajo Reservation. So every one of those things, I'm a serial social entrepreneur. Every one of those has lasted for a generation or more. We just celebrated our 20th year.
I was going to say, I wanted you to talk about this.
Champions for the Homeless.
Yeah.
And I wear this every day. If you can get a close-up on that.
Yeah.
It was given to me by Danny Clark from the Navajo Reservation from Shiprock. He was a big Chiefs fan. He asked me to sign a poster. And I said, of course. And then a week later, he said, I want to make something for Nick. What's his wrist size? Left a message. And then he made this. And I've come to look at this as the symbol of when you make a commitment to stay with something for 20 years, you can do a more meaningful contribution to wiping out, to erasing generational curses where people and cultures are stuck in it. And you do your little part that helps people see a little bit more light, a little bit more hope, a little bit more confidence. And I'm passionate about that. And I think the more you do that, the better you get at it. It is an absolutely beautiful gift that God gives us, when we're doing things that really are selfless. And that doesn't mean that we don't love getting things out of it too, but it's always empty if it isn't intentionally about the one or two people every day that you know you're helping.
Yeah. You know what's weird? I mentioned this about a month ago before the book came out, and I'm curious if we still can figure this out. How many people that you reference in the book individually? Because these are real stories. Yeah. A lot of times authors or people put a name in a book, like name dropping, and that's not your book. Your book is telling a story about your parents, who you live next to. They're real. And I've read the book now, but I was a third of the way through the book, and I'm like, wow, this is a crazy story. You're following. How many names were in there in history? You've already named a bunch. The president.
I got another one for you.
Yeah.
My middle name is Gerald. And name drop, my uncle, Gerald Bray, my mother's brother, was All India Rugby. He was sent by his father to India right after World War I, sorry. And he became very close with Air Marshal Lord Tedder, who was the viceroy of India when India was a protectorate of the British Empire. And Air Marshal Lord Tedder was the head of European forces under Dwight Eisenhower. I mean, just all these amazing connections. We take for granted that we won World War II, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all those things. Muhammad Ali. Did we talk about Muhammad Ali?
A little bit. We didn't talk about it. It's a picture in the book, though. That was one of my favorite parts of the book is the pictures. I mean, we've already talked about some of these amazing pictures. Your brother. Some of the people that are in here, I mean, these are some historical images that are cool. And you have cool Muhammad Ali. It's great.
Muhammad Ali, just, taking him to the Royals game with Dayton Moore, and J.J. Piccolo was the assistant GM. Now he's the head GM for the Royals. And they did us right. So they had, beautiful golf cart picking him up, giving him a Royals jersey with Ali #1 on the back.
It's great.
And we come through the wall, and everybody recognized him. He's got his sunglasses on. Didn't matter. That's when you're famous. There's only one Muhammad Ali. So I'm sitting behind home plate, and I've got Muhammad Ali right next to me, and I've got George Brett, one of the greatest players of all time. I think he's underrated still. And then Wayne Gretzky right behind us, the greatest hockey player arguably ever. So that was a moment.
Goats.
A lot of
goats. But the really cool thing is
section right there.
To come back. And Joe Torre was there with the Dodgers, and all, just seeing these players and how much they venerated, understandably and deservedly, Muhammad Ali for his stand against the Vietnam War and his courage, not only as a fighter, but as a true leader, way beyond words. So now we're 100 yards from the white Range Rover that I drove him to, their Range Rover that I drove him to the game with. And there was a crowd of about 15, 20 kids and 5, 6 adults. And I'm like, because he's shaking, he's got his Parkinson's.
Yeah, of course.
And as we got within about 30 feet, he straightened up. His shaking stopped. And I've got pictures on my Facebook page. It's Nick Lowery, Nick the Kick on Facebook. You can scroll down and see it. He's letting these kids sit on his lap like he's Santa Claus, and just with this angelic face. I'm thinking, what an example. And Evander Holyfield, by the way, is a lot like that too. But Muhammad Ali, what an example of a pugilist, of a fighter, of a violent fighter, the greatest, I think, ever. And he was all about love. And by the way, he's a Muslim, and he was all about love and without any judgment of Christians, etc., except love, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And he was so clear on that he could literally will his Parkinson's to disappear for 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's special.
And then to me, can you ever think the same about somebody like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I already admired him, but I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's what I really appreciate the book is it's not a biography. It's not a story. It's everything. And the life lessons, by the way. We haven't even talked about that. You have lessons in there, which I don't want to give away, but we're when you're going to be doing the media, I think bringing those home, because I have had people, it's another athlete book. No. This is different. This has got a long story to it. And there's lessons to me, whether you're a CEO, a historian, or a teenager. My boys.
And mental health stuff, too.
Yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
about mental health, because in the end, how we manage our choices, how we manage what we focus on, because it's so easy to focus on the betrayal or the missed field goal, whatever the equivalent would be, and take yourself down that corridor that only has darker stuff coming with it, as opposed to strengthening yourself and noticing that you're growing.
Yeah.
And you're getting better. And, I just noticed with the people from St. Vincent de Paul, Shannon Clancy, and before that, Steve Zabilski, Jerry Castro. I love to mention their names.
Yeah.
Jennifer Morgan, Jessica Berg, Danielle McMahon, all of these people there serving the homeless anonymously, essentially, 365 days a year. With what the homeless, there's a doubling of homelessness in California. There's a big increase here with all the evictions.
Yeah.
And those are my heroes.
Yeah, that's great.
They teach by just being.
I love it, man. Well, we're going to wrap it up. So I want you to tell us again about Sunday, the event. People may see this in Kansas City. They may want to come to the live event. That's going to be at Harrah's, right? Harrah's
at Harrah's Casino in the Voodoo Lounge.
On Sunday.
4 o'clock on next Sunday, the 26th.
Yep.
And he'll be here.
Yep.
I hope you'll come somehow. My boys will come visit. You can't refuse.
Websites to get the book besides Amazon and the obvious. You go on Amazon.
Just Google Christian Okoye, Nick Lowery Roast, and the website will come up. The Christian Okoye, Okoye, Christian Okoye Foundation, and it will be a blast. We've got Blaine Howard, who's a country singer, who's going to perform, and we had CeeLo Green.
That's awesome.
Perform 2 years ago. I mean,
good. I'm excited.
They get some real talent too. So it's not just a roast; there's some entertainment too.
Yep. And where do we get the book? What's the domain you're pushing everybody to?
On Amazon. Just go to Amazon. You can go to nicklowrybook.com, but go to Amazon. It's 2 days delivery. It's $19.95. I mean, we didn't want to overprice it.
I love it, man. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. I know you're on the media circuit. You came by us. See us. What's your story? We appreciate that.
Yeah,
it means a lot. So we're signing off. Mike Lindstrom, Scott Leese, another episode in the can. Nick Lowery. Enjoy.